The United States just approved a sunscreen ingredient that has been used in Europe and Asia for over 20 years. That should not feel like a breakthrough. It should feel like an indictment. Because if something can be used safely elsewhere for decades before it is allowed into the United States system, the real question is not, is it safe? The real question is, why does healthcare take so long to catch up to reality? We tend to tell ourselves a comforting story in medicine. That delay equals caution. That caution equals safety. That safety equals better care. But that story breaks down quickly when you look at what actually happens in practice. Patients are not waiting for scientific discovery. The science already exists. The data already exists. The global experience already exists. What they're waiting for is permission. And permission is where healthcare slows down. This sunscreen example is small, almost trivial on the surface. A cosmetic dermatology update. But it exposes a much larger system truth. Medicine is not primarily limited by knowledge anymore. It is limited by structure. And structures do not fail loudly. They fail slowly, in layers. You see in clinics every day, not in dramatic moments, but in friction that has been normalized. Insurance approvals that outlive clinical urgency. Billing systems that require more effort than patient care. Administrative workflows that expand while clinical time contracts. Technology that promises efficiency but adds another layer of coordination. We call this complexity, but often it is just accumulated delay. Here is the uncomfortable part most people in healthcare avoid saying out loud. A large portion of what is labeled as regulation, process, or compliance is not improving outcomes at the pace it claims. It is increasing distance between knowledge and action, and distance has a cost. Not just financial, operational, emotional, clinical, because every delay in access becomes a quiet tax on physicians, staff, and patients. The sunscreen ingredient is not the story. It is a symptom. The real story is that healthcare does not struggle with innovation. It struggles with adoption speed. And adoption speed is not a scientific problem. It is a systems problem. So the contrarian question is this. If an ingredient can be proven safe and effective for decades elsewhere, what exactly is the system optimizing for when it delays access? Safety alone is not a sufficient explanation. Not anymore. Because in practice, delay itself creates harm. It creates inefficiency. It creates burnout. It creates inequity between systems that move and systems that stall. Most clinics are not failing because they lack capability. They are failing because they are forced to operate inside delayed systems while being measured as if those delays are neutral. They are not neutral. They compound. So the real insight is simple but uncomfortable. Healthcare does not need more innovation as much as it needs less friction between innovation and use. And until that is addressed, we will keep calling late adoption progress, while pretending delay is just part of the process. That is the part worth questioning. Because once you see it, you stop calling it caution. You start calling it what it is. Lag dressed up as safety. Now the practical question becomes unavoidable. Where is your clinic still paying the cost of unnecessary delay? Billing, insurance, documentation, workflow, communication. Pick one. That is usually where the system is leaking the most time, money, and attention. And fixing that is rarely about adding more tools. It is about removing friction that should not have been there in the first place.